Hello everyone. There's a campaign that's been running now for about a year in the UK, maybe a little bit longer than that. And it's a campaign that on reflection I support quite strongly. It's about the infamous page 3 of The Sun. For our international friends watching, The Sun is basically Britain's largest selling tabloid newspaper. Although I use the term lightly, I think it's more of a criminal enterprise than a newspaper. But basically, page 3 is a tradition in this paper in which a topless young woman, topless, just appears. Usually with a speech bubble about some topical issue. Now, in regards to the speech bubble, I don't know whether it's her actual words or the Sun have stuck it there. I don't know. But it remains very controversial. You just say page 3 in the UK and everyone knows what you're talking about. I believe other tabloids have similar things, like the Daily Sport, which is absolutely not a paper. It's just, it makes the Sun look classy. The Daily Star, they tend to do this, and I believe other tabloids across Europe, maybe Bild does it in Germany, I don't know, but it's quite infamous. Now, there's been a campaign which has been supported by many feminists to have this banned, and this is one of the rare occasions when I'm on their side. I believe that they've got it right, and I believe this should be banned. Anyone who's watched my videos for a while will see that I've often criticised feminism, and I've also had issues with the term objectification, which I believe is overused. However, this is one context I think the term is entirely appropriate. This is objectification, and it absolutely has no place in a national newspaper. And there's quite a lot of areas where I take issue with page 3. First of all is the hypocrisy of The Sun. The Sun, as with other tabloids, is very morally self-righteous when it comes to the problem of paedophilia in this country. Now, paedophilia obviously is an evil thing. It's adults abusing vulnerable young people. And The Sun comes out with glaring headlines like "Nunts caught in the act," this sort of thing. But most of the girls they use on page 3 are in their late teens and early 20s. Okay, technically not children, but only literally adult women. They've literally just turned adult women. So they're very young women, and there seems to be absolutely no purpose for this other than to titillate male readers. I can't see any appeal to women readers except maybe lesbians, but clearly this has no place in a national newspaper. Now look, I'm a heterosexual man. I like breasts as much as the next man. But that really isn't the point here. I believe that I'm not against all depictions of sexuality in media, as I believe some feminists are. But I'm definitely against this, and I do think it puts women in a position where they're basically just, clearly those girls have no purpose whatsoever except to keep attention on male readers. There's no purpose for it. It's not sexuality done in an artistic form, or a situation where women have control. It's consensual, I'm sure the models agree to it, but they're young women, and I have come across interviews with page 3 models who years down the line have said they did regret doing it. Interestingly, the tradition continued under Rebecca Brooks. As the Sun's first woman editor, she never got rid of it, but probably only because she realised that if she did, she would lose half her readership, or a good proportion of her readership. And she's a very shallow person. She's a tabloid editor, so she couldn't care less about principles. The so-called ethics girl is now standing trial at the Old Bailey, and I think that's a bit of karma. But anyway, that's going off a bit on a tangent. I do hate The Sun, but that isn't why I'm taking this stance. There's other problems with page 3. The Sun has sold stands which are at a level whereby children can see them in broad daylight. And yes, breasts are natural, but not in that context. I think it is unhealthy if you have an adult man who picks up the Sun to buy, and he has a look at page 3, and his young son or young daughter sees that. It's clearly something they shouldn't be seeing at that age as children, because the context here isn't about a natural pose. Yeah, breasts are natural, but it's clearly being used for a purpose, which is to stimulate male readers. It's got absolutely no connection whatsoever with news, which is what a newspaper is supposed to be about. Now, anyone with half a brain can tell that the Sun is total trash. Even if you take away page 3, it's still total trash. I don't really need to lay out the reasons why, it's self-explanatory. But clearly, the Sun has no place in this. The Sun's page 3 has no place in this country. Personally, I'd like to see the Sun gone altogether, but that's not realistic. That isn't going to happen. So at least this should be banned. It is basically taking advantage of young women. I wouldn't go as far as saying exploiting them, because I think that word would be used more in cases like human trafficking and so on. And it is probably true, these young women, when they do it, they feel they like the attention or whatever. But even with the consent factor, I still think it's wrong. It's not just about what they think, it's also about the wider issue, which is that it has no place in a supposedly family newspaper. It is objectification. This is a context where I think the word objectification is valid. I've signed petitions against it, and it's one area where I would agree with feminists on. And it's not just feminists who take issue with it, a lot of people take issue with it. So that's my view. I think they keep it solely to keep their male readership, because the average man buying the Sun, this might sound snobby or patronising, but honestly I don't think he or she could care less about what's happening in Syria or the Russia-Ukraine situation or Malaysia Airlines flight 310. They care much more about celebrity gossip, and in the case of male readers, the tits on page 3. Sorry for the language, but it's the way they perceive it. And this isn't a case of I actually have no problem with sexuality in media in certain contexts, and I think where I do take issue with the term objectification is when it's overused, and when I think it's used every single time there's sexuality portrayed in media. I do think there's a place for sexuality in adult media, I do, but the Sun in a newspaper on family stands using young women, it has no merit whatsoever. And I'm saying this as a heterosexual man. You know, it's not about, so if guys want to come on here and say, oh, you're gay, etc., it's nothing to do with that. It's more to do with the fact that clearly this has no place in a national newspaper. It does degrade women, because it insinuates that that's their only purpose in the paper. So I can understand entirely women being offended by this. And another thing, it's got nothing to do with free expression, because it's not expression, it's not making any point. It's not a case of, this is an opinion. Now, it would be different if someone's coming out and saying, engaging in the debate about objectification. That's fine, there's different opinions there, and I have my own opinions on that. But page 3 has nothing to do with expression. It's simply showing the female form in a gratuitous manner for the sake of it, and that's all it is. So I remember actually the general election 2010, the Sun had this page 3, yeah, I've seen it, I couldn't criticise something if I haven't seen it, where it had all the page 3 girls together, all topless, and this really looked like, I felt uneasy about it, and that might sound strange coming from a straight man, but I honestly felt uneasy. They had this huge thing saying, oh, don't put these girls out of work, let's see more of them and less of her, and they showed Harriet Harman. Now, I've said before, Harriet Harman's not my favourite person in the world, but that's just the sort of crude gutter politics the Sun resorts to. As if the Sun cares about unemployment. I mean, it just shows the values this paper has. It's just a sleazy, slimy rag. And page 3 should be banned. Check out the petition on it. I think you could go to DirectGov, and if you agree with me, sign the petition. Let's see this thing banned, because the Sun needs to be weakened in this country. It's got far too much power. Page 3 has absolutely no place in a national newspaper whatsoever.